Love your enemy. That's your mind, isn't it? Because your mind is your enemy. That's what you're trying to overcome. Because it's going to do all sorts of things. Because it's a trickster. It's the Joker. It's been put in there by society and culture. It's a program. So moving forwards continuously in love. This is an add-on to my previous video. Just to explain something else. An often overlooked nuance. Love your neighbour. So you use your consciousness, your awareness, and you become aware of your neighbour. And your neighbour is living in the same house. It's your mind. And it will do things. And I've mentioned this in the past. So you might say or do something and then regret it. But what are you going to do? Are you going to like shuffle around? Whip yourself? Prostrate yourself in front of everybody and tell everybody what a sinner you are? And how much you hate your ego? No, it's just absurd. Because you're going to fuck up. It is a journey. So love your neighbour. So you could look at it in two ways. Love your enemy. You can look at it as internal. Your mind playing tricks on you. The Joker. And if you love it, your mind, then you are totally accepting it. And when something is totally accepted, it can do no right or wrong. And I'm not talking about solipsism, where there is a belief that there is no good and there is no evil. And some people will say that's non-duality. Non-duality is a state of existence within, where you accept what the mind does because it's just a wild ass of a man. That's how Esau was described in the Torah. Esau was hated by God. And that's why to get to God, you've got to put Esau away. Esau is the ego. Get behind me, Satan. Esau and Jacob were the same individual. King Saul and King David were the same individual. You know, King David is higher consciousness and he killed Goliath, which is the beast, which lived in King Saul. It set King Saul free. Let me explain it to you another way. There were 3 crosses put out in the story, of the story of the crucifixion of the Christ. And the story, although it never happened, it's very important because it embeds metaphor, allegory, symbolic speech. And one of the symbols is that the Romans had only prepared 3 crucifixes to nail people to. But they had 3 prisoners that were predestined to be crucified. But whilst Jesus, the character, was in court in front of Pilate, who said, "I wash my hands of this matter," it was the Jews that said, "Kill him, let his blood be on our children." And so they ruled, okay then, I will release Barabbas, who's a murderer. He's an utter scumbag. And I will put this man on the cross, just to keep you lunatics happy. Just for the peace and quiet. Now Barabbas, it means, it's a name, but it's Hebrew. It means son of the Father. So Barabbas, the lunatic, the disgusting creature, was set free when the Christ was crucified. So, let me explain it to you another way. When the sacred secretion, which is Jesus Christ, rises and is crucified on the cross. Barabbas, the son of the Father, the ego, is set free. And Jesus said, the truth will set you free. So Barabbas, the horrible character, the worst of humanity, he is symbolic of the worst that the ego can commit. And it's being set free by the sacred secretion. That's what the story's about. And it's the greatest love story there is. When you understand it, the symbolism of it, when it's explained to you, you can go, fuck yeah. Much in the same way that when Jesus, inspected the fig tree, and he cursed the fig tree because it bore no fruit and it withered and died. It bore no fruit. The fruit is the sacred secretion. It gets burnt off. Okay, and a fig is pollinated or inseminated by a wasp-like insect, which dies during the pollination. So when you're eating a fig, a part of that fig is actually a dead insect. So the dead insect is symbolic of ego death, which pollinates the fig. But when you look at that story, that's your heart. Okay, the ego death and the heart. And Jesus looks at the fig tree, which is this, and looks at the fruit. And if the fig tree doesn't bear any fruit, he curses it. It withers and dies. This is really simple stuff. It's so simple. And it can't be confused with New Age stuff. Look. So love your enemy. Because your mind is a servant. But it takes time to get to that state. And servants make mistakes. They drop the food. They spill the wine. Well, you could go and get a stick and beat the servant. But then he's going to be fearful and snivelling. And you don't want that. You want a servant that's going to serve you. A servant that will say, that will do the right thing. And not be afraid of making mistakes. Not to live in fear. That the servant can freely go about his life and make mistakes. Always mindful that consciousness is there. The awareness. But also knowing that you're just a child. But you're not an orphan. Do you see? So love your enemy. And of course, if somebody's pissed you off, which happens in life, things happen, then you can invest as much hatred or anger in that incident, that person, as you want. But then in time you'll recognise that it's poisoning you. It's detracting from the value of life. So if you have to take a course of action, which might involve hatred or anger, then do it really quickly. Get it over and done with and put that shit away. Or don't do it at all. Just accept the situation as it is. And just roll with it. Just become a flow rider. Now that doesn't mean if somebody punches you in the face you have to proclaim your love for them. It means that you're not going to waste the energy that you do have by turning it into hate. It's funny, Metallica have got a song. It's called Wasting My Hate. And James Hetfield sings. It's very esoteric stuff, like most songs are. Esoteric means like a message for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. And he says, I'm not wasting my hate on you. I'm going to save it for myself. So this is a story of James Hetfield's personal battles with his own mind's addictions to, I think it was drugs and alcohol. And a lot of these singers, these artists, they express that this inner war in high places. In their art. So it's, if you love yourself, if you can totally accept what you've done, then you won't be judged for it. I will stand by everything I've ever said or ever done and never feel guilty for it. Never. That's been taken from me. I've got no fear of that. I've got no fear of somebody might say, oh, you did this and you did that. Not bothered. It has absolutely no impact on me because I can accept all those things, whether it's good or bad. Now, I could say, for example, that like soldiering, being in the military, it's an evil organisation. It's low consciousness, satanic. Yeah. But if I hadn't have gone through those things, I wouldn't know what I know now. It all serves a purpose. But if that purpose is not realised within, then it's all been in vain. Then everything's just a vanity. But the people that are enlightened, they have that knowledge. They know. No need for faith anymore. They know it's a fact, a metaphysical fact. Yeah, they're not confined by the finger pointing, the judgments, the accusations of other people with small minds. So there's that saying: lions do not concern themselves with the opinions of the sheep, and there is a truth to that. Some might say, then why did you concern yourself with what the Intimate Warriors video was doing? Because I will concern myself with people that are on the path, and they're trying to understand this reality. They're trying to understand their own psychology. Psychology, it's Greek, it means science of the soul. They're trying to know themselves, know yourself. And if I see something stirring up the water and creating sediment, I've got to point out to people, don't drink from that water. Well, it's judging, Danny. No, it's a truth. It's just a distraction. It's all in here. It's in here. And if you're not going within and doing what's required, then you're going to miss out. Now is not the time to be fucking about. There's going to be some big changes. Big changes. Inconceivable changes. Unimaginable changes. And they're coming, ready or not. And if your house is not built on a rock, you will not stand. You won't. And that's the entire point of my videos. So, symbolically speaking, I am Barabbas. The horrible, nasty man, the evil one. The robber. But set free. Jesus was crucified, sacred secretion burnt off. The fulfilling of the ancient prophecies. And I'm free. The mind is set free. Because you realise the mind is not real. It's just a tool to interact with this environment. And it's powered by consciousness. I don't think about anything else. Because there's nothing else worth thinking about. Well, that's really self-absorbed. There must be some things you think about, Yeah, there is, but it always comes back to consciousness. Because I'm aware of my consciousness, giving me the ability to think. Love your enemy. Love yourself. The Apostle Paul said, oh, they become lovers of self. Yeah. Love your enemy, the ego. And loving the self. Which allows you to make these mistakes. It allows you to do that. It will never say no to you. It will teach you. Some of the lessons are harder than other lessons. You get tested. But you won't get given anything that you can't handle. The tests might be uncomfortable. When you start to realise that most of the people around you are just an act, it's kind of difficult to take it seriously. But you're here anyway, so you just kind of go along with it. But when you know people that are acutely aware of that as well, then it's okay. It's okay.